Ni Mheshimiwa Rais Dr. Jakaya Kikwete ambaye amefika hapa katika jukwaa tayari kwa kuzungumza na wadau hawa.
I have the Tanzanian public listening. We have ambassadors and investors who cannot comprehend Kiswahili. And this is supposed to be an investment conference. So I'll deliver my speech in English to communicate to those who want to invest. And then I'll do some summary or translation in Kiswahili. Kwa ndugu zangu wa Tanzania wenzangu, leo tuna kazi kubwa kidogo hapa. Tuna wawekezaji na mabalozi. Sasa wawekezaji wengi hawa wanaotoka nje wanajua Kiingereza. Na hata hawa waliopo ndani hapa, kwa sababu wengi ni wasomi hivi, watu mwingine wanajifanya wanapata tabu na Kiswahili. Na tunataka wawekeze. Kwa hiyo tazungumza kwa Kiingereza alafu nitatafsiri kwa kifupi kwa muhtasari yale niliyosema kwa Kiingereza kwa Kiswahili. Our Prime Minister and our ministers, our host, the Regional Commissioner of Rukwa and the Regional Commissioner of Kigoma, fellow leaders of various categories, investors and prospective investors, government functionaries, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I thank you, Madam Regional Commissioner, and the Regional Commissioner for Kigoma for the invitation to participate at this Lake Tanganyika Zone Investment Forum involving Kigoma and Rukwa regions and the soon-to-be inaugurated the Katavi region. I recall that in 2007, I officiated at a similar meeting in Sumbawanga, which was dedicated to Rukwa region alone. The decision to hold a joint investment forum of the 2 or 3 regions makes a lot of sense to me because of their proximity to each other, the similarities, and the interrelationship of the 3 regions. Allow me therefore to sincerely thank the former regional commissioners of Rukwa and Kigoma, Colonel Joseph Simbakalia and Daniel Olenjolai. I commend them for considering the idea of holding this investment forum. Of course, I commend the organizers for a job very well done. We have a very successful investment forum, very beautiful pavilions. I'm going to see all of them later. But I also thank the sponsors for making this meeting possible. I recognize a few of them. The European Union, I see the ambassador is here. Tanzania Post Authority, TANAPA, NBC, NMB, Vodacom, Tigo, CRDB, TPSF, and several others. Well, I thank you. Your generous contribution has made this forum possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to see a good number of potential investors gathered here this morning, eager to seize the vast investment opportunities available in the Lake Tanganyika zone. I was pleasantly surprised to see so many of you here gathered here. Well, this is almost a virgin territory as far as investments are concerned. I encourage you to exhaust all your queries, because everybody else is here during this meeting, because almost everybody who matters is here. They will assist, and I'm sure you'll get all the answers that you need. And for those who have already invested here, please use this opportunity to share your experience and give encouragement to the newcomers. Also, those who are already here, tell us the areas that you need attention for remedy and for strengthening purposes. We in government, let me state from the outset, we in government would like to see this sleeping giant, the Lake Tanganyika zone, awaken. And take up its rightful place in the country. Become an investor's paradise and a major growth zone for the whole nation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a statement of fact that investments is key to economic growth. There is no growth without investment. There is no case anywhere else on this planet where there has been growth without investment. That example has never existed. In essence, growth is a function of increased production, provision of and distribution of goods and services. That's the economic definition, simple economic definition. In turn, production, provision, and distribution of goods and services are a function of investments. Therefore, where there is growth, know for sure that there has been investment in that particular, or that particular place. Conversely, where there is no growth, it is evident that there has been little or no investments in that place. Just as simple as that. If you go to a place there is no development, know that there is no investment in this place. And if you go to a place and see development, the only thing that makes a difference is that that place has had investment. For these reasons, if we want growth to happen, one thing that we must ensure is available, continuous, and always increasing is investment. This is true of a family, this is true of a society, and this is true of an economy. Hakuna maendeleo pasipokuwa na uwekezaji. Kwenye maendeleo ujue kumekuwepo na uwekezaji. Kusipokuwa na maendeleo ujue hapaja kuwepo na uwekezaji. Na kwa ukitaka maendeleo lazima uhakikishe kuwa uwekezaji upo. Huwezi ukasema unataka maendeleo lakini hutaki uwekezaji. Unageuka kwa kichekesho. Haijawahi kutokea duniani. Ukisema unataka maendeleo lakini hutaki uwekezaji, huwataki wawekezaji, unachosema unataka kubaki ulivyo. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with this understanding in mind that promoting investments has become one of the cornerstones of our government's development agenda. There are two principal sources of investments that we are looking for: the government and the private sector. As we all know, the primary functions of the state are administration, ensuring law and order, and the provision of basic social and economic services, such as education, health, water supply, basic infrastructure such as roads, railways, ports, airports, energy, etc. In the discharge of these functions, the government does a lot of investments. That's why I say the government is one of those important investors, because in the discharge of these functions, of the roads being there, the ports, the schools, the health centers, the hospitals, the airports, the government itself is an investor. And the government does a lot of investments. This is true of all governments all over the world. Therefore, if government fails to perform this function properly, or does not do it in good time, growth will be delayed or even stunted. Because in those areas where the government is supposed to invest, and if government does not perform that function, and these functions are critical for growth, growth will be delayed or growth will be stunted. I would like to use stunted growth. And the words stunted and delayed, I'm using them deliberately. I don't want to use the word there will be no growth. That's too negative and that's too defeatist. This is the situation in many developing countries, including our own. It's not unique to Tanzania. And these three regions of Kigoma, Rukwa, and later Katavi know it better. When I talk of this particular fact, of less investment by government, less investment by private sector, and what that means to growth in these areas. The analog is not only related to the countries, but it also related to this particular and specific area. These regions lag behind in comparison to other regions in the country, using all the main growth or economic growth indicators. Of course, this situation is not by design or out of neglect, but because of the fact that Tanzania is a poor country with limited technical, technological, and financial resources, and there are competing needs. That's why there are some are developed, the others, some are still following up or busy on the catching up game. Despite the odds, we are doubling our efforts to make up for the lost time in these three regions. So far, so good. A lot has been done in so short a time in these three regions, and continues to happen to improve matters. It is a statement of fact that Rukwa and Kigoma regions of today are different from what they were 20 or 10 years or even 5 years ago. There is evidence of progress being made in various sectors, in various socio-economic life of the people of these regions and others like this in the country. I promise we'll continue to do more. Ladies and gentlemen, as alluded to earlier, the second investor is the private sector, meaning the private individual and companies engaged in the production of goods and services. Hata mkulima ni sekta binafsi. Sababu tafsiri yetu ya sekta binafsi tunadhani ni makampuni tu. Sekta binafsi inaanzia kwa mtu binafsi. Mkulima ni sekta binafsi. I'm saying when I talk to the individual, I was trying to speak in Kiswahili, when I talk to the individual, it starts with the farmer. The farmer in the village is a private individual, taking his or her own decisions to invest or not to invest. So private investment starts there. And then of course you have companies all engaged in the production of goods and services. Before economic reforms, the state was directly involved in the production and distribution of goods and services in this country. The government used to own farms. The government used to own factories. The government used to do a retail and wholesale business. Even at the village, the government used to own shops there. And private individuals were not allowed to have shops. Only village shops, maduka ya kijiji. Na siku moja tulitoka amri kwamba maduka yote binafsi vijijini yote yafungwe. Yabaki maduka ya serikali za vijiji tu. I was saying there was an order one day. One of our former senior leaders just one day gave an order, issued an order. All private shops in the villages must be closed. And they were closed. We ended up with no services. So this is where we were at some point in the history of our country. Through economic reforms, the state withdrew from being engaged in direct productive and trading activities. That role has been left in the hands of the private sector. Now the state remains with its primary functions of governing, maintaining law and order, as well as the provision of basic social and economic services. With regard to governing as related to the economy, the government has the responsibility of putting in place sound economic policies, both macro and micro. Also, the government has to ensure that the country has good investment policies so as to attract the private sector, both local and foreign, to invest in the socio-economic growth of the country. In other words, one can summarize the new paradigm as one of government governing and the private sector doing business. Of course, the government has not completely withdrawn, as it still owns some of the public utilities, water supply utilities, energy, TANESCO, Yomali ya serikali, railways, ports, telecommunications, etc. Government still owns those public utilities. But even with these utilities, unlike in the past, where there was total government participation or monopoly, the private sector is now allowed to participate. There was a time all bus transport in Dar es Salaam was Usafiri Dar es Salaam. All bus transport supplying the country used to be Kamata, the national bus company, the Dar es Salaam bus company. Now we have with public utilities. The government owns these public utilities. But a niche has been created for the private sector to participate. The private sector can do some activities related to the utilities, as they are now. Management. The government continues to own these institutional public utilities, but the private sector can participate in the management of these as management contractors for managing these public utilities. Of course, we have had experience. Unfortunately, we have not had a successful experience in this area. We are Net Group Solutions in TANESCO. We have Hutchinson in the port of Dar es Salaam. We had Rise of India with the railways. We had City Water with Dawasa. Well, I don't want to delve into why. My personal view, if I share, is that I think we entered into management contract with world-class companies. But I think they did not bring world-class managers to manage the operations in Tanzania. That's where we fail. Because you cannot imagine how a world-class company cannot manage a public utility in Tanzania while they are doing it all over the world. It's simply because of the choice of who comes to manage on their behalf. If you bring mediocrity, the results will be mediocre. The problem is not the company. Because, but this is a big, renowned company. Said fine. The company is a big one, but they are not managing well. It's not a question of the name. At the end of the day, you want to see results. And my very subjective view probably may not be objective. I think the companies remain world-class companies. The management remains mediocre. This is the reason of failure. There was a time we hired a prominent French company, Accor, to manage all the hotels, government-owned hotels. Dismal failure. Accor is a world-class French hotelier company, but they do not bring the best managers to manage the operations in Tanzania. So at times, those who support us get very angry with us. But we cannot just, because you support us, that we continue to keep them. No, we can't. At the end of the day, we need value for our money. Even if we get a loan from you, at the end of the day, we're going to pay this loan. We need value for our money. So I think this is my only subjective view. I don't want to be held responsible for that. I'm trying to declare that it's very, very, very subjective view, but I think this is precisely the reason. I said, okay, you want a job? There is some work in Tanzania. Okay, you can go. And then you end up. It's substandard work. Even the poor Tanzanians can have the capacity to appreciate that this one is not doing well. While the assumption was, go there, there will be no problem because they won't know. But we end up knowing that, no, at least not this one. Besides that, the private sector can now invest on 100% ownership on the operation of these services, which were once the exclusive domain of the state. As I said, Dar es Salaam used to be, for road transport, used only two companies. One, Dar es Salaam Bus Company, UDA, Usafiri Dar es Salaam, and the National Bus Company, Kamata, kampuni ya mabasi ya taifa. Even with road transport, the haulage of goods, there was a National Road Haulage Company. The private sector was completely locked out. With divestiture, with reforms, now we have so many buses, small ones, even small ones. We have so many silent taxis parked nearby. Some government officials own those, they don't pay taxes. Silently. But it's because of liberalization. So, say, private companies can just come. If you want to establish your own railway line, just come. We'll give you railway leave. We'll give you railway leave and you can construct your own railway. If you want to be an airline, do it. There is Precision Air. You have an airline. Which one now? Zantas Air Service, he has an airline. In the past, it was only Air Tanzania. So now we said we have made reforms. I'm trying to say this slowly to appreciate how far we've come. Because there are some people who just simply say Tanzania is not a good place to invest. The people of Tanzania are still interested in the past. No, we are not. I'm saying all this small detail to remind you, because at least you pick one thing and make it representative of what is going on. It is worth mentioning also that government retains shares in some of the divested companies, enterprises, or even some new economic ventures that are taking place now. Why are we doing it? We are keeping those shares in trust for the people of Tanzania. At some point, the government would sell its shares to the Tanzanian public. Of course, it's when we do this that we are saying, no, now Tanzania now is backtracking on reforms. We're just being honest. We're just being practical and objective. If you get to a situation where it's only foreigners who are the owners of the commanding heights of the economy, you may create resentment. This resentment may not be healthy for the stability of these enterprises. So when the government takes some of these shares, not for us. We have sold some of our shares already. NMB we sold. We are now working on NBC. Have we concluded or not? There's NBC to Shemaiza bado. We are working on that. We are going also to offload some of the shares. Our shares with NBC. The investor says, if you invest, he sells them to me. Don't take that temptation. We are wise. Don't think it's a decision of backtracking on reforms. It's also safety for you, it's a guarantee for you. We don't want to be a situation where President Nyerere once said, it's foreignization of the economy. We cannot get to that point. So it's a safety valve. If you can have participation of the local population, they become part of the growth of the country. Then they become part owners of their own economy. Don't get to a situation where it's only others who are owning the economy. You may create resentment. It may be not healthy for the future. You may create jealousies that may create instabilities in the future. So I thought, let me use this opportunity to explain, and I'm glad the ambassadors are also here. They'll transmit that message clearly, because at times they are the ones who are giving us a lot of problems. Tanzania is backtracking on reforms, they are now doing this. No. We have a lot of interest for this country, but particularly the stability and the growth and the benefits of the economy of Tanzania to the people of Tanzania. With regards to attracting private sector investments, we have put in place an investment policy and the investment packages, or incentive packages call them, that are attractive and competitive. They readily compare with any in the countries considered to be the most attractive investment destinations in the world. The packages include fiscal incentives, facilitation and protection of investments, guarantee of repatriation of profits and dividends. All these have specific legislation such as Tanzania Investment Act 1997, Export Processing Zones Act 2001, Special Economic and Export Processing Zones Act of 2006, the Mining Act, the Petroleum Exploration Production Act, the Public-Private Partnership Act. Furthermore, Tanzania is a member of the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes and the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency of the World Bank. This serves as an additional assurance to investors that their money is safe in Tanzania. We are aware of the problems of red tape and other encumbrances. I want to assure you that we are continuously taking measures to improve the situation. And above all, Tanzania is peaceful, secure, and stable 50 years down the road since independence. Well, besides the attractive investment environment, as briefly detailed above, and the other important thing about Tanzania is the abundance of investment opportunities. And the good thing about these investment opportunities is that many of them are yet to be exploited. Among such places in Tanzania where these opportunities or this potential do exist are the 3 regions along Lake Tanganyika which have convened us here today. These regions are richly endowed with resources and other investment opportunities. The Regional Commissioner mainly mentioned mining, agriculture, fishing, livestock keeping, tourism, transportation, manufacturing, transit trade, and several others. Rukwa, Kigoma, and Katavi regions can easily become the agricultural powerhouse of Tanzania. The climate is good. Rainfall is reliable if you want to indulge in rain-fed agriculture. Plenty of water resources on the surface, in rivers and lakes, and underground water resources as well. There is plenty of agricultural land that is yet to be utilized. These regions can produce all the maize that Tanzania needs and still remain with a huge surplus for export. Last year, what was our reserve in the National Grain Reserve here? What is it that we have now? 79,000 tons, I think. 80,000 tons. It's the largest reserve we have. We brought in Kigoma now. If you produce more maize in Kigoma, this region alone can produce just for the whole of this country. The growing and production of pulses, the pulses family, beans, wheat can grow, rice, oil seeds, the palms do very well. Kigoma and Rukwa, the valleys are just excellent. And we are bigger land than Malaysia. So we can become the Malaysia of Africa. Instead of Malaysia producing and then turning Tanzania into the outlet for sale into Africa. We have to be commission agents at the moment, but we cannot continue to be commission agents. Kati kule Kalinzi yule wanazito kule wanaweza kupanda mawese ni kama zoezi la toka utoto. I'm saying where Zito Kabwe comes from, the honorable member of parliament. Growing oil palms is a cultural trait that they inherit from generation to generation. It's just like oral tradition. But if we do more investments, we assist them, they can grow much bigger than what they are doing at the moment. Rice, so many of these valleys. All these can be expanded almost limitless proportions. There are big prospects for sugarcane plantations to be utilized, produce plenty of sugar for the country and for export. Right now we have a big problem. All the neighbors have a huge shortage of sugar, and the source is Tanzania. So every time you wake up in the morning, it's news. 26 trucks have been impounded at the border. So many. That's why when I was launching the National 5-Year Plan, I said, look here, let these police measures be temporary measures. Let's take it upon ourselves to produce for ourselves and produce surplus for the neighbors. If we bring that into our thinking right from the start, thinking about ourselves and thinking about the neighbors, we home and dry. And a 22,000 hectare sugarcane farm can produce, I'm told, about 100,000 tons of sugar. How many farms can you create in Kigoma and Rukwa? Massive. Something that you can just engage, produce enough for ourselves and sell to the rest of the neighbors around here. Livestock does well in the region. Of course, with Miombo woodlands, a lot of flies. It's a challenge. But the presence of flies is not the reason for you not to engage in livestock keeping. Deal with flies. The Maasais have known it. There are plenty of lions around them. They have the spears. Of course, now there is big fight between them and the national parks and so on. Don't use the spears to kill the lions that invade your cattle pens. But this is simple. They're not killing them every day, but at least with the spear, with the club, it deters them. And of course, they are not kept in the national parks. So there is this possibility. These regions can become major meat, dairy products producing regions for the country and for the Great Lakes region and beyond. The fishing industry presents extraordinary prospects. There is no commercial fishing in Lake Tanganyika, neither in Rukwa, as well as many rivers that crisscross these two or three regions. Peasant fishermen using dugout canoes from huge mango trees, mitumbu ya magogo ya miembe, nafunga injini. You can't do much. So therefore there are opportunities for organized commercial fishing industry in Rukwa, Kigoma, and the Katavi regions. Allow me to mention here that with Morogoro, Iringa, Mbeya, and Ruvuma, Rukwa region is part of what we call the Southern Agricultural Growth Corridor of Tanzania. This is an initiative of the government in collaboration with the local and foreign private sector actors. The objective is to enhance agricultural production in the 5 regions so that Tanzania attains food security and becomes the food basket for our part of Africa and beyond. Now the initiative enjoys the support of our development partners. Mechanisms of technical, material, and financial support to peasant farmers in the Sakot area will be put in place to enable them increase productivity and production and graduate from subsistence farmers to commercial farmers. That's the ultimate aim, transform these from subsistence farmers to commercial farmers. Large-scale farming will be promoted to work with and assist small-scale farmers. There is a place for large-scale production, but it is not instead of the peasant farmers. Large-scale production with the peasant farmers. Where possible, the peasant farmers become the outgrowers of the large-scale producer. This is the built-in concept within the SAGCOT initiative. Good progress is being made with the SAGCOT initiative. The SAGCOT leadership is already in place. SAGCOT Center and the Catalytic Fund will soon be operational. The rice cluster in Kilombero is just about to take off. I was there about 2 weeks ago. Work is now ongoing on the maize and potato clusters. I cannot promise if Kigoma region can be included in the SAGCOT initiative. However, if that will not be possible, there are ways of benefiting from the SAGCOT initiative. It is the intention of the government to replicate the cluster concept with other crops in regions outside the SAGCOT, regions and districts outside the SAGCOT coverage area. Because we're building a concept of clusters. You create a cluster, all inclusive. All the support services are there. The fertilizers will be available there. Financing, credit to farmers will be available there. Infrastructure, power, irrigation services will be available in that cluster. This is what we're bringing into the SAGCOT concept. We say this is the concept. You don't necessarily have to be part of SAGCOT to use this model to develop the cashew nut industry, to develop the oil palm industry in Kigoma and other places. That's why I'm saying, even if Kigoma cannot be part of that southern, because if you bring Kigoma, then the concept has to change. It's no longer southern. But it's a matter that will be discussed. Ladies and gentlemen, the natural beauty of Lake Tanganyika zone and other tourist attractions present unique opportunities for investments in the tourism development. The two lakes, as well as Katavi, Gombe, and Mahale National Parks, are home to rare species of wildlife like the chimpanzee and scores of other common wild animals. They present a wildlife safari experience of its own kind. Therefore, investing in tourism support services, such as hotels, transportation facilities, and the other tour operator business is very promising indeed in this region. Ladies and gentlemen, all these opportunities combined with its geographical location of bordering Zambia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Burundi, the Lake Tanganyika region presents a formidable business potential area. The regions can become a major industrial and commercial hub to cater for the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and Burundi, as well as northeastern Zambia. This is almost a captive market awaiting for us to produce goods and services to sell. It's there. Burundi, Eastern DRC is a captive market for us. What is required for us is to produce the goods and services to sell. It is for this reason that the establishment of the EPZA at Kigoma is not only economic but strategic. We'll make sure that it functions. We'll make sure that it takes off the ground. To me, this is one of the early areas of EPZA that we must focus on. Dr. Merupo, sasa usije kuniambia kwamba umeipanga katika awamu zinazofuata. Ninataka ile sasa. There is this huge market for us to tap. Just create the EPZA. Wanataka masifuria wale, wanataka vitu hivi. Produce them there. Kiweka na mgodi wa Uvinza ukaweka kule kwenye EPZA nayo chumvi ile. Kule wanatumia chumvi ile kwa kuolea, ni mahali. Sio chumvi yoyote, chumvi ya Uvinza. huko nje kanda hiyo lazima upate hiyo. I'm just reciting a story that what I'm saying, the EPZA is a critical area for us. I said Kigoma, after all that, it should be a top in the list of those that we must invest early so that we can reap the benefits as early as possible. Build factories. Those guys source almost everything from here. There was a time of visiting Kigoma region. I went up to Manyovu border, and then I went to Kasulu from there. So as I was driving towards Kasulu, I was asking the regional commissioner, because everybody on a bicycle had a mattress. I said, it can't be that these people are buying so many mattresses every day. Because it's such a coincidence. It's several bicycles. Behind each bicycle, there is a mattress. They say, no, this is just for Burundi. They're just buying these mattresses. Can you imagine if we have magodoro ya Dodoma pale EPZA ya Kigoma? Let them relocate the operations there. They have an operation in Dar es Salaam. Let them have another operation in Kigoma. The Dar es Salaam will take care of the other zones. The Kigoma operations will be the biggest operations, taking care of the people of Kigoma, but at the same time, taking care of the needs of Burundi, Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Northern Zambia. It makes economic sense. It is simple arithmetic. You don't need somebody to lecture on you. So that's why I'm saying that EPZA is not only a function, it's economic, it's strategic for us. Strategic to make sure that we tap into that market. Ladies and gentlemen, I consider this investment forum to be very opportune indeed. I therefore call upon all of you to rise to the occasion and seize these opportunities. When I say so, I'm aware that several local and foreign investors are already doing so in this region. Many good things are already happening in the meat processing, edible oil processing, grain milling, dairy farming, mining, bottling, and I'm also told brewery business, because people like beer, and tourist support services. They're already happening. All that I'm saying is we are only scratching the surface. There is much more that we can do. There is much more that can be done, which has not yet been done. Let's rise to the occasion. We have to do it. We need to invest more, expand on existing operations, and open up new ventures. The benefits are obvious. More dividends to the shareholders because there is going to be an expanded operations anyway. More jobs for young men and women in these regions, as well as more markets for the farmers and our businessmen and women. Of course, poverty will be reduced, and ultimately the biggest beneficiary of all will be the people of these regions. For their dream of better life will be possible to realize. While I applaud those who have invested in the region and appeal for more to join in, I would like to assure you that the government is aware of the challenges these regions face. We are fully aware that actually these challenges impede growth, and if not attended to properly, will act as a disincentive to the flow of investments. I would like to reaffirm my personal commitment as well as that of the government that I lead, that we are determined to deal with these challenges so that the immense potential of these regions can be released and harnessed. Infrastructure stands out to be the leading challenge. We are determined to improve connectivity. We are determined to improve accessibility of the Lake Tanganyika regions to the rest of the country. and between the three regions. I'm sure many of you know that I'm not engaging in empty promises. We are already investing heavily in the construction of paved roads in these regions. The Tunduma to Sumbawanga, Sumbawanga, Kasanga, Sumbawanga, Kibaoni, later to Mpanda, via Namanyere roads are now under construction. For these roads alone, the government will spend or will invest about 490 billion shillings of its own money and those we get from friends. The United States is our biggest supporter in this enterprise of investing the roads in this region. We thank them so much. We're investing much more money in the Kigoma region. Construction of paved road from Kigoma to Kidahwe, Uvinza, Ilunde, through Malagarasi, constructing the Malagarasi bridge. We are now working on moving from Kidahwe to Kasulu, later to Kibondo and Nyakanazi. We are also working hard to finance the portion from Ilunde to Rambo through Kaliua. We are aware of the needs for reliable connectivity within the regions themselves. The road fund, which we have increased, has done a phenomenal job to date. Support from other development partners, but we are committed to allocate more budgetary resources to improve regional and district roads in all the three regions, so that goods and services produced by the people can reach the markets. We are doing the same with the air transport. Mpanda now will soon have a new airport, not an airstrip. And plans are now underway to do the same with the Sumbawanga airstrip. Upgraded from an airstrip to an airport. I will tell you an interesting story. There was a time we went there to attend the funeral of the former bishop, Msakila. We went with this big military aircraft, transport plane. I think this Canadian, was it Caribou or Buffalo, with the former Prime Minister John Malechela. So we were trying now to go taxi. So there was a point that we had to turn. There was a former ant-hill there. So one of the tires just got stuck there. We had to spend a night. This is the Sumbawanga airstrip. Of course, there's some improvement, but we want to get out of those experiences. Just like what we did with Mpanda, we'll do the same with Sumbawanga. The work to upgrade and modernize the Kigoma airport will start any time from now. I'm told the contractor has already been secured. He's now mobilizing equipment for work to start anytime. My ambition for Kigoma Airport is to become the hub for the Great Lakes region. And from Kigoma, you go to Lubumbashi, Kinshasa, to Bujumbura, and wherever that you want to go. Let flights from there, from those countries, stop by Kigoma, onward to Dar es Salaam. Offload passengers, those passengers board planes to China, to Dubai, to Hong Kong, do business. Collect luggage, collect goods, come back through the same route. Sorry, I'm not thinking of the same role for the Mpanda airport. Kila moja haiwezi kwa ya kimataifa. Itabakia local kidogo kwa muda. And we have to be focused. In the same vein, plans are underway to expand the ports of Kigoma and Kasanga on Lake Tanganyika. But we are also doing, there are about 19 small ports there. 5 of them are already under plan. I'll let you know. I think, are the people from the ports here? Hey, she'll tell you, she'll brief you. But our focus now is Kasanga Port, Kigoma Port. Raise them to international standards so that they can service the neighboring countries well. At the same time, kuna Kirando, kuna Karema, kuna wapi huko. Hey, hizi nazo, they are in our focus. So that we improve, lake transport. Because to some of the people along the lake, the only transport they know is lake transport. That's the easiest. And if that one is not properly organized, then we have virtually nothing. That's an area for investment. Invest in ships, fast speed boats, ply the lakes, and make money out of it. Just like with the airstrip, now with the airstrips and so on, now the Mpanda airstrip is so many planes parked there. I'm sure not too long from now, once the Songwe airport is operational, I'm sure you can get these flights from Dar es Salaam, Mbeya, Mpanda, Kigoma. Prospects are there. We are opening up these areas. We will do everything to keep our promise for the purchase of a new ship on Lake Tanganyika. While talks are ongoing to get assistance from the German government to rehabilitate the oldest ship in the world, MV Liemba. We have started discussions in earnest on this matter, and maybe 2 years down the road, if we come to an understanding, we may have MV Liemba rehabilitated completely, become just as good as new. It will fly, maybe another one, but you can also invest in ships between Kigoma, Bujumbura, Uvira, Moba, Zambian side. There is plenty of business in the lake. It's an area of opportunity that you can explore. Let me use this opportunity to invite investors to invest in air transport, shipping lines on lake. With regards to railways, we have decided that we should also upgrade to standard gauge the Tabora-Kigoma line and Kaliwa-Mpanda line. We are now working with Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of, with Rwanda and Burundi. Later, the Democratic Republic of the Congo will join us. With building a new railway line from Isaka to Kigali in Rwanda, and from Isaka to Keza, Musongati in Burundi. It's going to be a standard gauge line. We'll upgrade the line from Dar es Salaam to Isaka. So our intention really is to change the central line completely, from the narrow gauge we have now to a standard gauge. So we are now busy working on the feasibility studies for Isaka, Mwanza, Tabora, Kigoma, and Kaliwa Mpanda junction. Because you cannot have within the same line narrow gauge trains, standard gauge trains. We want to completely overhaul the whole system, modernize it, upgrade it. So Kigoma Mpanda lines are also part of that. Ladies and gentlemen, fortunately, almost all the district headquarters in Lake Tanganyika region have power supply. Pale Nkansi mshawaka umeme au bado? Line inakwenda. Yeah, we had only in Nkansi. Otherwise, the other districts, they have power, but being generated from diesel engines. With Mpanda, with Sumbawanga, we also have power from Zambia, but very unstable. However, many parts do not have this important service, and these regions are not yet connected to the national